AskReddit by Improv92. What do poor countries do better than rich countries? Reuse things. So many things get fixed, recycled and repurposed. Yep. I live in Brazil and it's funny, and great too, that sometimes it's almost impossible to convince a repair guy that I seriously want to spend extra money to permanently fix this, buy new parts, whatever's needed. Anything that impacts safety, I'd insist, but like I got an extra year out of a pair of tennis shoes for the equivalent of $2.50 by gluing on a new sole at the local shop down the road. Generally love the attitude of at least not defaulting to throw it in the trash. Not letting any food go to waste. So true. Every part of an edible thing is consumed, nothing goes to waste. Lots of creative recipes with things that people in the first world country would just throw away. Work as a community. Every time I travel to a developing country I'm always blown away by how hospitable and welcoming the people are. I never ever take it for granted. Social contact. The first thing my relatives from India observe when they visit our suburban Texas home is where are all the people? Hundreds of massive homes and hardly any people seen outside. Also, noise. Asked the visiting relative the next morning if they slept okay. They responded, no. I asked why? And they said it was too eerily quiet fascipum. In Colombia in lower caste class, Estrato, neighborhoods areas people are often outside and have lots of interactions. Higher class neighborhoods and condo buildings you'll see no one hanging outside or interacting. Problem solving capabilities with less resource. Creative work. Jugaad, https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/jugaad. Focus on the here and now. Grew up in one of the wealthiest places in Europe, but born in Haiti. I always joke to my friends how our people would be so compatible. We are excellent planners and organizers Haitians could learn from, but dear lord, just enjoy the moment, little things, relativate stuff, be down to earth, cope with difficulties in life etc. Haitians are in a different galaxy to I guess most Western people. Stuff that mentally upset and break us, they would have a little giggle at and just move on. I can't truly recommend every Western person to spend a little time in one of those countries. You look at life totally different. Flexibility and resilience. People in rich countries like to plan and anticipate. They are organized. It's great when everything goes according to plan, but all hell breaks loose when things go haywire. People in poor countries are better at dealing with uncertainty. I can see this in my marriage. My wife is from a poor country. I like to plan and organize. I save up money for retirement to the point that I'm living paycheck to paycheck, some checks stashing cash in sock drawers. When something breaks I end up borrowing from her sock drawer. They seem to have a better sense of community. The whole transition is described pretty well in The Fate of Empires by John Glubb. He looks only at changes in institutions, but they all reflect the move from communal to individualist cultures, and the wealth that comes midway through. Cope. Live with less. Learn to make do. And ultimately, survive. Rich countries are going to have it the hardest when the supply chains fail. They really aren't. If push really comes to shove, then rich countries will exploit poor countries to survive, and use their militaries to do it if they have to. In any crisis the poorest always suffer the most. Deleted. Same. In the US it was hard to meet people who we would want to be friends with. Here we have a real sense of community, and great friends. Locals, not expats. Better sense of community, resilience, and strangely enough, happiness despite having less. I grew up lower middle class in Manila, and despite not having a lot, our water was pumped from a deep well, inconsistent electricity, clothes that didn't fit, etc. I remember having a happy childhood. Gonna agree with this. In my travels, the absolute most social and happiest people I'd met were in poorer countries. I'm sure there are even poorer countries or war-torn countries where this isn't the case, but it's definitely markedly different than many Western nations. The Philippines was notable in this respect. So many people would make random jokes, or practice English and laugh at themselves. I really wish we had a bit more of that in our culture. Being happy with less. Live with what they have and still be happy. Have kids. Deleted. Not entirely true though. In some countries I wouldn't touch their street food with a stick. Bad water, bad hygiene, rats, insects, etc. There are good examples too. People take care of each other. I notice this is lacking in Western culture. Everyone just cares about themselves and greed is just rampant. I've traveled quite extensively, at 50 countries now, and one thing I always appreciate is how people can support and respect anyone, even tourists. Bolivia, Egypt, Vietnam, Brazil, to name a few. I would go back specifically just to meet locals again. Also food, I love food. Make flavorful rice. Street food, street markets, and public spaces. Folk art. In rich countries, it's not cost effective to put a lot of time into decorative crafts, so the traditions die out pretty quickly. Make babies. Have sex to reproduce. Dancing. Street food. Way more resourceful with what they have. Food, more often than not tbh.